Hello and welcome back to Primetime Proofs. Today we're going to be taking a look at the very exciting BDGE NFL Trivia Finals video, Part 1. Here's the prompt.
Welcome back to the finals of the BDGE Trivia Tournament. First game up. I need you to name the running back and wide receiver or tight end duos to have the most combined yards in a season. Now, it's only counting the running back's rushing yards, and it's only counting the receiver or tight end's receiving yards.
Okay.
Is this all time or is it?
It's since the year 2000. You need to name both. There can be duplicates, but only if one of the other two is different. So if you name two players could have done it in 2 separate years, but they would only be on here once, unless it's one player with a new guy.
Okay.
I just want to start by saying that I love BDGE. They're one of my favorite channels. Go check out this video and all their other videos in the description below. I'll link them there. And through this process, I've learned that getting stats exactly correct is very difficult based on a bunch of mismatching stats and discrepancies, especially in older years. So all the props go to Sexy, the host here, and the BDGE team for putting this together. Today we'll be building the query from the ground up, starting from nothing and going to the final list. Here we are in SQL Server. We've had to switch out of using Azure Data Studio and the Azure Cloud because the free trial ended and it was pretty expensive to run it for a month, about $100 per month. So right now we're just hosting this locally on our own computers. I've written out the prompt in my own words here. Running back and wide receiver tight end duo with most combined yards in a season since 1990. Running back only rushing yards, wide receiver tight end only receiving yards. So I think the way we want to approach this at first is make a table for the backs, make a table for the receivers, and then join them together later on. So let's start with the backs. Most yards in a season. Expanding our table list in the database, I think our best bet is TBL player stats. I went back and rewatched the video. It's actually since the year 2000. So here's a basic query from TBL player stats. Turns out this is a game-by-game table. So here we have most rushing yards in a game by a player since 2000. Thinking about it some more, this might be better in case a player is traded in the middle of the season. They'll have different teammates, so they might not qualify for the list. Let's group this by season and get some more columns. Here we should have the most rushing yards by season, since we've grouped by the 3 columns and are summing by rushing yards. So our list is obviously a little bit wrong, because I know off the top of my head the record is around 2,200, and Saquon did not break that last year by such a wide margin. The record is Eric Dickerson, actually 2,105 yards. And here we see Saquon's 2024 year, 2,005 yards. So going back, I remembered that these stats usually only count for the regular season, so we'll put in a clause for that. Alright, here I've added season type equals regular season, and the results look a lot better. Saquon Barkley is 5th on our list. Let's go check PFR. So not counting Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, and Terrell Davis since they were before the year 2000. Saquon Barkley would be 5th. And the yards look correct. 2005, 2006, 2027, 27, 6, and 5. So I think this is correct. And just to be sure, we have running backs who were traded in the middle of the season. I looked at CMC stats, and we have both 2022 for San Francisco and 22 for Carolina here. Next, let's copy this for receivers. Here we go. Changed rushing to receiving yards. Changed position to wide receiver and tight end. Let's check some of these top results. Here on PFR, we don't have many from before 2000. Jerry Rice is the first, and next one is Isaac Bruce. So these top 3 should be the same, and the next 3 should all be the same as well. Johnson, Cup, and Jones. Here we have Johnson, Cup, and Jones. 64, 47, 71. 64, 47, 71. I'm pretty confident this is correct. We want to find the pair in both of these tables with the most combined yards, where it happened in the same season and on the same team. So I've tried a few things, and we're back with this table. I've selected all from running back table and joined on the receiver table where team and season are the same. For example, you'll see the 2006 Cardinals had 4 running backs, it looks like, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers. This pairs each running back with each receiver with their total yards. Taking our previous query, we are going to add the rush yards and the receiving yards and call it total yards and order by total yards. These numbers look somewhat familiar from the video. Let's check. I transferred all the info from BDGE's video to Excel so I can see the final answers in yards better. And I've highlighted the rows that have different yards. In total, there's 7, and all are off by a pretty small margin of yards. One thing I notice is most of the years are from the year 2000 or pretty early on, and one is from 2020. So I think my stats aren't as accurate in the earlier years of the database. Let's look at the row of Denver in 2000. Here we have the running back for the Colts, Mike Anderson's stats for 2000, broken down by week from the same table, TBL player stats. And comparing these numbers to his total yards on PFR, we'll see that his yards in week 16 are different. We have 62, and in PFR, week 16, we have 49. When we click into this game and look at some more stats, we have Mike Anderson going for 49 yards. However, PFR also has their play-by-play data that we can compare to our play-by-play table. We'll see he has 12 rushes as well, as is the case in PFR. However, if we go line by line in PFR and we add up all of Mike's rushing plays, we'll find that their play-by-play data does not equal their own summary. Mike's first rush was for 38. He fumbled, but it still counts. Next he went for 0, then 2, then -1. This all matches our data so far. Next he went for 0, then 4 yards, but it was negated for a penalty, so that doesn't count. Then 0 again, then 6, then 4. 0064 is also what we have. Finally, that's a pass. 4 yards, pass, 1 yard, 6 and 2. 4162, incomplete pass, and that's everything. 4162. Adding all these numbers together, we see that their sum is in fact 62. So very interesting that PFR says Mike's total yards are 49, but in the play-by-play data, it adds up to 62 for PFR as well. At least I'm glad that my play-by-play table matches PFR's play-by-play. I wanted to see if other websites have the same mismatch of data. Here we are on NFL.com. Should be pretty official stats. Mike Anderson, year 2000, and we have 49 yards total. Interestingly, the long is 25 here, and on PFR, their long was 38. Our long was also 38. You'll notice the difference between 38 and 25 is 13, which is also the difference between 62 and 49. So presumably, Mike's first carry was counted by 25 yards in some cases and 38 in others. Looking at another website, that probably gets their data from NFL.com anyway. Here we have Mike Anderson, 49 rushing yards. This is the only other website I could find all play-by-play data on. And in the first drive, we have Mike rushes for 38 yards, but a total of 49. And finally, one more website. This uses a Python wrapper for the NFL verse, so it's the same data that I have. Down here in week 16, Mike Anderson, 62 yards. I tried to look in some of the other tables I had. The only other table that could help is called FF Opportunity Weekly Fantasy Football Related Content. And the problem with this table is that it only goes back to 2006. So here, on commenting this, we see no data for the year 2000. It looks like TBL player stats is our best bet. So what can we learn from all of this? My takeaway is that data from 2000 and perhaps 2003 and earlier is just going to be a little bit different. I'm okay with this because even PFR's own website doesn't agree with itself on total yards. I've looked to see if there's an easy way to download PFR's weekly summary so that I would have the same data that BDGE supposedly uses, but there's not, so I'm just going to live with a few yards difference. Let's continue making the query better though. In 2020, Derrick Henry had such a dominant year that he's on this list, as we have it right now, multiple times. And the results from BDGE don't include the result when one player is the same in the same year. So even though Henry had different teammates join him for these rows, only the best one would count. What we'll need to do from this query, if we take out the ordering, is find the very best total for each season and team combo. Here is the list of all the Arizona Cardinals in 2022. And for this group of results, we want to find max total yards. The way to do this is with a partition. And there's this function in SQL, row number and partition by, where you create a new column that ranks certain subsets of your results. So in this first query, we needed to find the best result for the season team combo, and that is what we add right here. And then the order by clause says how we want to rank the rows. And we want to rank them by the total of rush and receiving yards. That gives us this result, where now it's Arizona in 2000. We'll see that the best combo was Michael Pittman and David Boston for 1771 total yards. And if we scroll down to the next team year combo, we'll see the next result labeled as row 1, and so on. The next step is to enclose our last query in a subquery so that we can select where the row number is 1. We'll run this and we get only the best result from each year. You'll see that Derrick Henry was in row 3 and row 11, and now Derrick Henry is in row 3 and no longer in row 11. The other thing they mentioned at the start of the video was a player could be on here twice if they did it with a different player in a different year. Hence why A.J. Brown is on here twice with a different teammate in a different year. However, looking further down, we have Cook and Jefferson on here twice in 22 and 20. If we scroll down a little farther, in fact, they're here in 21 as well. Their third best year of 2775 would still make it on the list if it was counted. So to solve this problem, we took our previous select star and just expanded it out, added another partition by. This time we're going by running back, receiver, and team, ordering by total yards. So this should give, whenever both players and the team are the same, we should get a 2 in the row number. And we do for Dalvin Cook, and also Foster and Johnson on Houston. Yes, their first entry was a few rows up. And Bell and Brown, of course. Their first entry was also here. And then we see Cook and Jefferson's third entry. From here we can do some interesting analysis. I wanted to see some of the very best rushing receiving combos, so I added this clause here. This will return a list of pairs where their total yards were more than 2,000 and they've done it more than 3 times. And here we see that list. Notably, Marshall Faulk and Torrey Holt did it 5 times, and their 5th best total was 2,146 yards. Incredible. Michael Turner and Roddy White also did it 5 times, 5th best being 2,024 yards, not bad. What if we extend this down to 1,000 yards? Did anyone do it 6 times? The only additions from this list are Tiki Barber and Amani Toomer, and Fred Taylor and Jimmy Smith. Getting back to the official list without duplicates, all we have to do is add another clause where row number equals 1. Here we see there's only one Cook-Jefferson combo. Their last combo was a few lines down, and we'll see the row numbers are all 1s. Now we should be getting pretty close. Looking at our 32nd entry, not counting row 1, was Lewis and Heap. Looking at our 32nd entry, it's a little different. These 3 yards difference actually matter for the last spot on this list. If we take the 2759 yards from the video, they actually finish ahead of James and Wayne by 1 yard. And in my data, they finish 2 yards lower. So that explains the difference there, and I'll just have to accept that. I am interested in the 2 years more recently, where the yards are off. Let's take a look. So for 2020, we have the video giving 3122, and my data giving 3102. Checking 2020 Tennessee, Henry got 2027, A.J. Brown got 1075, and those numbers match what I have. Adding them up, we get 3102. So we can chalk this up to just a typo on BDG's part. Another interesting thing was if there were any tight ends. The prompt was any wide receiver or tight end combined with the running back. So if we add in position, we see that the first tight end is Todd Heap, the last name on our list. So just barely snuck in there. Yeah, so this is the list. I'll give this video my stamp of approval. Other than my yards that were a little bit off in the earlier years, this list is correct. I was interested to see which players were on here multiple times, so I selected the top 33 from my results and then ordered by the running back name. And we'll see Derrick Henry, Edgerrin James were the only two running backs who were on here twice. We switched to receiver name. We see AJ Brown on here 3 different times. Absolutely insane, with 3 different teammates. Andre Johnson makes it twice, and that's all. How about by team? Atlanta, Baltimore, Houston, Indiana, Rams, Minnesota on here 3 times with Indiana, Philadelphia 3 times. How about by season? Quite a few in 2000, just as many in 05, 3 in 08, 4 again in 12, 3 in 22, and a couple of recent ones. Pretty well balanced, pretty big gap from 8 to 12. Yeah, that'll do it for me for this video. Very fun video, got to use partitions. As always, please let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or any other stats you want verified. See ya.